Well, good afternoon, everyone. I think we've started getting everyone admitted in. I know there's still some connecting from what I can see, but we will dive right in to things this afternoon. Welcome to the Housing Facility Services Committee monthly meeting. We are so very happy that y'all could join us today. We look forward to recapping with y'all on things that are happening across the country and with our specific areas, and hopefully being able to help each other out, come up with some different ideas and whatnot. So we have our normal set of slides here that we'll run through right at the start of the meeting. Obviously, we have the ACUHO-I online resources that are available to you. Definitely, I'm pretty certain that our recordings from these meetings do end up on the YouTube recording page. So if you ever miss a meeting or you were, hey, we talked about something, but I didn't write down all the notes, I believe that that's a great spot that you can circle back to be able to find that past meetings and whatnot. But obviously the open forum and the ACUHO-I website itself is all very helpful. So don't forget to keep an eye out on those different platforms for different things. So our next slide, these are the virtual offerings that are coming up here before the end of the month. I believe that there are packages that if your university purchases, you can get like group multiple attendees to that, if that is something that is intriguing to y'all. So wanted to put a plug out there for those. Also the ACUHO-I podcast, they've started their ACUHO-I stories. They're definitely looking for likes and retweets and all that kind of stuff. So if you can definitely help them in that way. I have not been able to have a chance to listen in just myself yet, but I know I had opened a tab at one point to listen in and then didn't hit play on it. So I'm going to do a better job of that. But I believe that that's a new effort that ACUHO-I is really trying to help bolster and give folks opportunity to get connected even some more. So my name is Joel Gaddy. I'm with Oklahoma State University. I am the chair of our communications subcommittee. Teresa, who was not able to join us today, who was the main chair of the committee. But so we are, myself and Steve are the ones leading y'all today. So I'll let Steve introduce himself.
Yeah, I got good afternoon, everyone. Now, my name is Steve McKenzie. I'm the Director of Facilities and Planning at the College of the Redwoods up on the north coast of California. As Joel said, yeah, Tracy can't join us today, so he and I are split MCs, and we're going to be the Abbott and Costello of this show today. And Joel will
Steve brought the jokes though.
Joel will be providing virtual cookies later on. So.
That's right.
Let's bring cookies to the meeting.
Love it. Well, so for anyone that might be new to this meeting or the group today, this is just wanted to run through the quick list of kind of what this meeting is. It is very conversation based. So if you are able to have your cameras on or webcams, that would be great. I know that helps engage with the group and community, but also too, like Zoom, if you're not in the process of speaking, if you're able to have your mic on mute, that'll help eliminate confusion or back noise on that stuff. But we are hopeful that everyone is able to at least unmute and pop in and add some information to the group when they have the opportunity to. So we would ask that you can, if possible, remember to say who you are and where you're at. I know from mine to things, it kind of gets confusing because you want to just jump in there and get to rolling. So if you forget that, we're not going to hold it against you, I promise. So we will run through our committees, our subcommittees, and provide some updates from those before we get into the general topics. So the first subcommittee is our conference and programming committee. And I know JJ and Aubrey are not necessarily on the call, but I do believe we have a member, Allison Fox, who will be able to pop in here and just kind of give some quick updates on her end.
Yeah, actually, as of right now, we have no updates. We are waiting to hear back from APA and ACUHO-I, but we will send out more information as soon as we get confirmation from them regarding programming for the committee.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Allison. Steve?
Yeah, so as the sub-chair of the Education and Resources Committee, we don't have a a great lot to update on, obviously with the COVID thing. As many of you are aware, these things in this COVID situation changes almost weekly. So in some of these things, how do you keep up on the education and resource part? But one thing I would like to put out there, though, to this group, I see we've got another really strong group on the call around the Zoom again today, is that if you've got some thoughts and ideas on topics that the Education and Resource Committee could take on that you think would benefit the group as a whole, please send those along to me. You can get them to Spencer, or you can get them to Joel, Teresa, any one of us, myself. And we'll start to look into these things and devise some committees and subcommittees and focus groups to really get into them.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. The next committee we've got up is our Committee for Recruitment and Minorities and Women in Housing Facilities. And I believe Dee Dee is here on the call. Dee Dee, any large-scale updates or updates about what your group's working on?
No large-scale updates. Good afternoon, everybody. Just wanted to let folks know our mentorship program is underway. And I know it's had a little bit of a slower start, but I do know a couple of the participants who are engaging have provided some really positive feedback. So if you're at all interested in connecting with someone in the field who maybe has been in the facilities area a little bit longer, or just looking for a connection outside your institution, would you email me and I will send you the link and let you know how you can get connected. And so I'm trying to keep up to date with folks too. And I've reached out to some folks where we have more folks that want to be mentors than we have mentees. So just letting you know, like, don't give up hope if you haven't been connected with someone yet. It's literally just a numbers game at this point. So hang in there with me and I'll reach out as soon as I have someone to connect you to.
Awesome. Thank you for that update, Dee Dee. And I tried to type into the chat real quickly. I hope I didn't put in any typos in your email address. So if you could just check that, typed over there real quick in case someone needed to copy it from the chat. So we can also, from the communications committee, that's the committee that I'm the chair of. That's the subcommittee that I'm the chair of. No major large scale updates for the group other than our normal trying to keep updated with new attendees. So if there is anyone that is new to this call and you want to make sure that your name's on our group's listserv to get updates on upcoming meetings or anything that we may put out, please don't hesitate to send me an email and we'll make sure to get you added. Or if there's others on your teams that you would like to have on the group, by all means, they're more than welcome. We do have the interest form, which is just out there live. It's all the time. It's real simple. If there is someone that you want to direct to that interest form, I'm dropping that link in the chat box right now. So that can also help get them connected with individual subcommittees, or might be a way to at least know who to reach out to later on down the line. But definitely don't forget about the online community app that's available on smartphones, tablets, whatever you got, to be able to stay engaged with an open forum. We post in there as well about our meetings. So you can always try to keep up with us there as in the future as well. So then I think we will go to Josh next. That's right. I always want to skip over this, and not intentionally, I swear. Our Sustainable Facilities Subcommittee, their next meeting is right after this meeting this afternoon. So if you happen to register for that, Robin Gagno is our the chair of that committee and is leading those meetings. So we may wrap up a few minutes right before the end of the hour, because that meeting starts off and we know that there'll be some folks that want to hop off and swing over there. So now we will jump to Josh Ganna, if I am correct. Yes, our executive committee liaison. Josh, how are you today, sir?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Steve. And thanks for everybody for keeping the important work on your campuses going. My name's Josh Ganna. I work at University of Washington, but also service the ACUHO-I Facilities and Physical Environments Director on the executive board. And just a handful of things to share sort of what's on our map looking forward. In addition to the notes at the start, we are looking forward to the annual conference and exposition online in June 22nd through 24th. That also has institutional registration options that are a good value if you've got a lot of folks that want to attend. We've got an active executive board recruitment in process. There are 5 vacant board positions that go into effect for January 1st, 2022. Deadline for that's May 14th. The Sustainability Committee, which is meetings up next, is working on some additional webinar options and partnerships. So keep an eye on the ACUHO-I calendar for those forthcoming. And then finally, ACUHO-I is working on relaunching a revisioning of the future of housing work that happened towards the start of the pandemic, sort of thinking about things in reverse. And so we've got a re-entry task force commission that's going to start putting out some product about how to return to more normal activities on campus. And there very well may be some opportunities for facilities professionals to engage in that work, given the critical nature of the work we do in COVID. The final thing I would say, the conference program committee mentioned they're waiting on ACUHO-I and APA. And I think, frankly, my opinion is I would be very surprised if we're in person in the fall. I think the planning mentality right now is an online format, mostly due to professional development funding not being available, but also still some possible COVID restrictions. It will be a little while yet before ACUHO-I has the contractual pieces sort of sorted out there, but we'll be in close touch with that subcommittee to make sure we're aligned and delivering a great product in the fall. So I'll turn it back over to you, Joel. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. And that's kind of a great kind of a segue for us as we head into our consult with colleagues section. Again, this is where it is almost a full-blown open floor dialogue. Now, we do have some pre-selected topics, and I believe with those topics, we do have some poll questions that we're going to open up and have for y'all to be able to answer kind of quickly. Yep, there it is popping up. So if you could run through just these questions, we will then post the results when we get to the specific tabs, or I'm sorry, the specific slides that topic falls under. But so that will be helpful in that aspect if you're able to quickly jot in some answers there to that. Might help steer some of the dialogue too for us. We're about halfway, looks like, in votes. Give folks a few more seconds here to tally up and read through and figure out what the answer best fits them, right?
And the winner is.
That's right. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty much to be expected on one. Pretty much everything's still virtually.
Yeah, so we'll get that slide deck pulled up for our first topic. It is the hiring processes and practices in facilities. Just kind of the question of what are y'all doing on your campus? Is everything still virtual? Are we involving other campus partners in like a typical student affairs, res life, hey, interview with a bunch of different groups? Or is some of that gone to the wayside because we're living virtually now with things? So just kind of wanted to put some feelers out there and see what some of the thoughts were. Are you seeing candidate fatigue at all from people needing to do multiple Zoom meetings a day from their job? But then if are looking and doing interview processes, have you started noticing that anywhere? So any thoughts?
Hi, this is John from Tulane. We just finished
John.
about 5 on-campus processes. We typically would do like a 1.75 day on-campus in person. This year we moved to like an almost 1 day virtual process, recognizing that like most candidates would just be completely exhausted having to do a 2 day process. I think most of them were exhausted doing an almost 1 day process via Zoom. But we try and do the rest of it. So we still involve students, we involve partners related to the position, and then a bunch of our own staff. That seemed to work out mostly well. I do think we still exhausted people, but it's hard to avoid that.
Yeah, I'm sure both for y'all trying to coordinate that too, as well as the candidates. I'm sure that's quite the. Sorry, a dog tried to come through the door behind me. Sorry. Yeah, and I'm sure you had some of that too during some interview processes where people are, unintentionally interrupted by someone else in the background because of the nature of where we're at. Are there other schools that are going into any sort of large hiring timeframes for facility purposes, or are you needing to bring in technicians to get some sort of hands-on feel for the environment of some sort or anything like that?
But University of Washington, we just sort of cut free funding to start recruiting again after all the furloughs and layoffs, anticipating a better upcoming fiscal year. So I think we have got like 15 custodial positions, a couple maintenance roles, and then a manager position, and it'll be a blend. So for the manager role, we'll do primarily virtual on the interview. But our custodial and maintenance staff, we do bring them to campus and do some in the field interview processes to get a feel. Because I find that's, it's much more effective to go up into a bathroom and have the custodian show us how they would tell us how they would clean that bathroom versus sitting across an interview table or a phone interview. It's a lot more accessible. So don't know what pools are going to look like moving forward here. I should have a gauge of that in a couple of weeks. I'm optimistic we'll have some good pools, but it'll be interesting to see.
Here at UTC facilities, I've got two mid-management level positions that we're in the collecting resumes and visas for right now. And our intent is to virtual those interview processes. The university itself has decided that it's on the getting into we're going to open it up to campus visits in the near future, and the upper administration has determined that it's in their best interest to bring those candidates to campus right now. So it's opening up a little bit here in Tennessee.
That's good to hear. Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, as people start getting vaccinated and the hope for almost a full resumption of normal back on campus in the fall. There's other pieces that have to happen before that as well. But it's always nice when your projected fiscal year numbers are going to be better than the previous year, and some of those positions that you couldn't hire before can start being posted on the boards and start getting candidates in. But there's also still other hurdles in the way sometimes of how do we interview this, or is there a better time to interview it for it? So is there any other hiring practice type questions or thoughts anyone from the group would like to put out there, or anything specific from your campus?
Joel, I would just kind of put in the process, obviously with the COVID, the virtual process has really been the norm over the last year. I was like, if you could push it, do anything to convince your administration to do more in person. It's really hard for me to get a feel for a person, by, the virtual thing. I like to sit across the table from them. To really have those discussions. We've got a position open for an associate VP or vice president of student services, and they're doing it all by virtual. And we're going to have, they're going to get 45 minutes on Friday, each of the 4 candidates or a half an hour for a candidate for a VP position to really sell themselves. And that's, that's usually a day-long interview kind of thing where you can kind of get to learn more about the person. So I find the whole virtual process challenging. I'm looking forward to opening back up so we can get back to some semblance of normalcy.
All right. I believe we probably exhausted that topic, and we can kind of swing on down to our next one, which is vendor standards. This kind of question had been brought up, I believe, kind of along the mindset of, is there exact specifics that are given to all of your vendors for when they're coming into your spaces, or is it specific based on certain vendors, or do you have some vendors that come in and say we need to make sure that we are doing XYZ steps? Do they all check in at the same space? So I know there could be a lot of variety here as to how vendor standards is covered, but just kind of, at least here at Oklahoma State University, a lot of it can sometimes depend on what functional area of campus is bringing in the vendor. So, for instance, our vending is done and completely controlled by our dining services group. And so they, figure out the contracts as to what vendors are going to be have vending machines in our halls. And then they provide them access. And I think they give one person, or like there's a person has to come and check in with one person to get a access card to then go throughout the halls to those locations. But I don't necessarily think that anyone's being escorted with them. Now, on the facilities side of things, if the facilities group are bringing in a contractor to do windows, specific type of windows or something like that, the technicians have to escort that vendor through. So there's a lot of ambiguity even in who and how does it within our area. But I mean, for the most part, there's should be a name tag or at least some sort of identifying indication on the person as to who they are and what they're doing. And then key access and swipe access is all coordinated through the different areas. I know from the housing side, we will sometimes get asked to make a swipe card for a certain vendor because they needed to come in for some XYZ reason. And so we will provide that as needed. But a lot of times it's just kind of done by the different functional areas. Any other thoughts to vendor standards or how that might be housed or done on your campus? If not, we can slide to the next slide. I know the topic of camps and conferences has been one that's been ever changing, even from the beginning of the pandemic, but then even this calendar year, as to what groups are doing or what campuses are doing what. I know that there could be changes. Are there folks that are changing what they thought they had to, or what they were planning versus what, now that some things with COVID might have changed, are you now opening more up, or are you still sticking with the initial plan that might have been decided last calendar year?
Hey Joel, this is Drew at Texas Tech.
Hey, Drew.
Something that just came up recently for us is our orientations that we typically house students for the night. They have canceled. They're just doing day orientations. And so as a result, that has really changed our project focus this summer, because now we are pushing to get into that building and do as much as we possibly can, because we know that once we get back to some semblance of normalcy, we won't be able to get into that building as easily. So it has really changed our focus in a good way. But we also currently are planning to, as normal, having camps and conferences, and expecting the normal, 60 different camp groups over the course of the summer. And, we'll see. But in the back of our minds, we're expecting a lot of those to potentially cancel at the last minute. And if that happens, how do we deal with our student staff that we've hired if we don't need them as much as we did? And we are committed to keeping them on payroll if we hired them. So we will find there's always things that can be done.
Right.
That's kind of what we're doing. And as far as I know, we are not requiring testing.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat here as far as not requiring any sort of required testing before they arrive. However, I think it's also being left up to the conference groups to decide how they want to put on their event. We've had some groups that they registered because they wanted to lock in certain dates with the intention of not or full disclosure on the front end saying, hey, we don't necessarily know if we're even going to have a camp, but if we do, these are the dates and here's what we would hope for. And we've already had some of those back out and say, nope, never mind. We're not even going to bother with it this year. There's still too many unknowns and variables and how do we do this or that? And we'd just rather not. But I think last update that I had gotten, we were at 30 camps for the upcoming summer, all, internal and external. Some of them internal, meaning OSU, internal, different department or whatnot. But then there were some other trio groups from other campuses or other locations that have reached out and are planning to do some of that stuff like they did in the past. And our big one, our Special Olympics of Oklahoma, they usually are one of our bigger groups, and they hit us right at the end of the school year. They canceled their summer games again, obviously for health reasons and safety. So we know that one's been scrubbed on the front end, but that bodes well for us as well of being able to do some more facility stuff because that sometimes puts a hard tax on us going from residents to then a big group that takes up all of our spaces. But we also miss the revenue aspect from that as well. So there's, catch 22 there on that front.
This is Gary from UTC again.
Hey, Gary.
We have a few groups that are going to be contracting with us. Mostly we've determined that they have to have some connection with UTC, so there's no outside groups that are coming in. The other thing is, I think many of the groups are finding a daunting task in trying to come up with their own COVID protocols for their group, because I saw this in the chat as well. That's a requirement for a group to come to campus, is that they must have an approved protocol in place, approved by the university, that says how they're going to handle their COVID situations. And so I think once they get into that, especially with the youth groups, it's going to be really difficult for them to do anything but just cancel out for this summer. So we're not expecting a lot. We, much like Drew, are taking advantage of the open buildings to go in and do what we can in a bigger way, hoping that we can get some of that hard stuff behind us and get into the next summer, the following summer, more routinely.
Yeah. And thanks for pointing that out too, Gary, about the chat. I have seen that there have been a bunch of messages over there. So please make sure for everyone else on the call, don't forget to open up that chat box. There might be some nuggets of knowledge over there for you that could be really helpful for your campus. Did I see someone else trying to jump in?
Yeah, this is Bob
Robert.
Morton, Mississippi State University, student housing. So I was talking just before this meeting with the conference people, and they told me that we have a whole slate of conferences. We were asking about sports camps, and they told me that the NCAA hasn't approved sports camps. And I was just wondering, that this is kind of new for me. So I was just curious if anybody's heard anything about that part.
So that's a great question. I don't necessarily know that I heard that there weren't allowing any youth camps at all, but that might be why some of our basketball camp was the one that had just recently canceled on us after they had reserved. So I believe that there are some athletic teams that are planning on having a camp group, but maybe they're holding out hope that something will change last minute. I don't know. So
Yeah,
Well,
which
I-
which
I've-
she indicated to me that that the NCAA will make a decision within the next 10 days
Okay.
whether or not they're going to permit coaches to host those camps.
Gotcha.
And the Spencer here from ACUHO-I with the random tidbit, also a basketball coach on the side. I know that they are announcing that the dead period on recruiting is going to be lifted in June. So there's a lot of folks that are hyped about being able to be recruited by colleges again, and I'm going to guess that's going to open up that camp period as well. But that is around the corner. I've heard all the rumblings about that in the basketball world, which is completely related to the higher ed world. So there you go.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you. Okay. I think I might have had another question that I wanted to.
And
hit
I'll
on real
put
fast.
a link in the group. June 1 is when regular recruitment's going to be able to start again on college
Gotcha.
campuses. So
Awesome.
there you go.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, we can jump to the next slide unless there's something else anyone had question-wise. Camp conference side of things. I believe our next topic might be summer maintenance. Yes, summer maintenance. What Andrew, you kind of alluded to that a little bit on your end with taking advantage of some of the empty spaces and maybe shifting plans and projects up a little bit if you have the empty space. But are there any sort of are there any sort of groups that are still restricted on how in depth your summer maintenance can get into this upcoming year because of fiscal past fiscal year restrictions or whatnot? I can say that from our end here at Oklahoma State, it's been a ongoing conversation of, okay, we might not have as many groups here. We are obviously tight on money from the fiscal year and just making things work. How extensive is our summer maintenance plan going to be this year? Do we do just building specific, building life safety type equipment, HVAC, and that's it? Are we painting rooms? Are we recarpeting things? Are we fixing blinds? Are we not? So there's been a lot of back and forth on our campus with that kind of topic about summer maintenance. So definitely curious to know what others are planning for this upcoming summertime.
Yeah, I can share, Joel.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill LaCava from Arkansas Tech. I've cut my capital improvement budget from 1.8 million down to 300,000 this year. So we're feeling the expenses on that one. So I'm picking and choosing my summer projects for this year. Next year, I'm projected to do about 800,000 of capital improvement if we hit budget, which we're trying to get more people to come on campus. Right now, summer maintenance, I got told by my maintenance supervisor that 80% of our rooms have not been prepped from 2019. So we are going through with a crew of 5 people for 13 buildings, because that's all I have right now on maintenance, to go through. We're going to pair them up with some of our student student workers. So this way each of them get a pair. Right now, we just do appointments by appointments that they go in through there, but we're going to utilize more of our student workers. Since we have more money in that pool than we do anything else, we're trying to hire one more facilities person, but we're not going to be able to hire them until July. So we're just going to go through with student workers and do some touch-ups, try to get some stuff done on it, try to get the buildings prepped beforehand. HVAC filters are probably the biggest thing. And we are trying to utilize that COVID money to upgrade some of our HVAC filtration systems in some of our areas as well. So hopefully we can get approved on that one, but that's what we've been looking at.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? I did see a lot of chat information pop up there, so I haven't fully read through it all, but if there is someone that wants to recap anything from over there, by all means, let us know. Or provide more context to what you might have typed in the chat. That's all great.
Yeah, Joel, this is Drew again at Texas Tech.
Hey.
I'm kind of the opposite. We currently are planning to spend about 3.5 million this summer on our summer projects, which is down about $1 million. But we've got a lot of stuff to do, and we have the spaces to be able to do it in. So it was really actually easy to justify to spend that. So that's what we're kind of doing. And Gary, our most recent building that we built is a pod style building. So if you want to talk offline, I'll be happy to share the greatness and the challenges of that. But yeah. And just so I don't know if others are doing this, we did this. We drank the Kool-Aid, and at the beginning of all this COVID, we spent almost $200,000 on filters for moving up to the MERV 13s. We quickly realized we cannot sustain that, and so we got out of that and went back to the MERV 8s that we had previously, and have not had any issues whatsoever with doing that. So I'm curious if other people have gone backwards in that area, or if they are still on that bandwagon, so to speak.
Drew, I completely understand what you're saying, and what we've done is kind of reassured others. We'll kind of figure it ourselves. If we're doing our filter changes on a quarterly basis, as we should be, that the MERV 8s are fine. And that's kind of the way we've approached it.
Yeah, I can echo that too. We also we wanted to switch as many of them as we could. There were some that we weren't going to be able to because of their specs, and it just wasn't even going to fit without a whole bunch of other maintenance being done on the unit. So some of them, there was no chance to even change them to MERV 13s, but we did change a lot over to MERV 13. And then as we cycled through our quarterlies and realized how the cost associated with that, we cut back, and we do still have MERV 13s in our communal spaces for larger air handling units, but an HVAC for someone's 4-bedroom apartment or individual suite or something like that, those are all on the MERV 8s, and not going to be getting a MERV 13 because it's just not needed on that front for that small of a space. But somewhere where we have high traffic, high population walking through, or even, not necessarily it's open to not even being door swipe controlled, I believe that those will probably stay the MERV 13, and we'll incur the cost there on those, but not a wholesale over like pre-COVID or beginning of COVID. So any others on that front? Okay. Well, we can jump to our next topic. And I have to refresh my memory. Logistics, I believe, is our next topic. How are you? I mean, we're obviously all doing a lot of things, trying to, and we were doing a lot of things before COVID, and then COVID only amplified that. And then you lose staff, or you have people having to pick up additional roles to fill in the gaps, and everything like that. So the topic of logistics, and what are some of the best practices that y'all have found to try to keep doing it all and all or more? Are you relying heavily on your work order systems? Are you relying heavily on a system like a StarRes or a Room Pact, or are we also just making it happen with Excel spreadsheets? I mean, I'm not going to, there's times where I just open some Excel docs and I start plugging things in to make it happen, So just kind of wanted to put that out there for the group of how are you making it through? How are you doing what you do day in and day out? Is there tips or tricks or things that you found that work well, things that you found, hey, don't even try this, might be worth buying some service to be able to help keep track of things. So just opening it up to the floor to kind of see what's out there from everyone.
I'm really convinced that you need to rely on your CMMS system, no matter which flavor you choose to go to the Baskin Robbins and pick up, but using it. And then what I've found here, and gosh, I'm so far from perfect, I can't even see the P in the perfect, is that in your CMMS system and your maintenance procedures and protocols, if you're relying on your system to really provide you the reactive maintenance that everybody seems to be on that bad side of the 80-20 from, then it's really now's the time to be focusing on the preventative stuff, the preventative maintenance, because what we've learned is that we're getting bitten pretty heavily by things that should have been caught on a preventative side over the years that even failed to get put into a system and be kicked out on a routine basis. To things like jettering sewer lines and things like that have really come back to haunt us in a bad way. So I think the best practice, in my opinion, is to focus even more attention on the preventative side, making sure that that's into your system, your CMS system, and that is actually being accomplished on that level, because that's easily overlooked now, and everybody's reacting left and right, and it will come back to bite you in a hard way.
Thank you for that info, Gary. And yeah, fully agree. I would love to be in a perfect world where we can, get all of our preventative maintenance options done and get all that work done and never have these issues. But we know that things sometimes have to get missed because of a fiscal component, but then it needs to be circled back to, and I think that's a component that sometimes, if not circled back to, can really cause some larger issues that then also impact the bottom line. At least in my opinion. I know John from Tulane had posted over in the chat a kind of rundown of all of their systems. Thank you for that, John. Great info there of just kind of how it's sometimes a little bit of everything is what you kind of do to make it all happen. And I can echo some of that here on our campus as well. Let's see here. Are there any other thoughts on that topic before we switch over to special requests? So special requests kind of came up, I believe might have been in our leadership meeting where it got brought up in a side conversation. How are folks handling the need from other areas wanting to get information either put in their halls about special programs that they do? Is that something that is handled by your facilities teams, by your cleaning teams, by those? Do you force those individual groups? I'm thinking like move-in week programming information, or we have a program called One Is Too Many in regards to sexual assault prevention. They have come to us and said about, hey, we want to put some One Is Too Many programming in, or just pamphlets of how to call, who to call, where to call. We want it in every bedroom before people move in. So we have a lot of folks that will request certain things to be done like that, or magnets put on refrigerators, or stickers on mirrors. Is that type of stuff that you guys will even entertain? Is that something that you just say, nope, we don't do that, we want a sterile, clean, empty room? Or do you sometimes work through some of that kind of stuff?
Something that we started doing this about 3 or 4 years ago. Particularly, we had a lot of outside the university groups wanting to advertise to our students during move-in. So what we actually did is created a move-in magazine that these vendors could donate or not donate, they're charged. They pay to have their advertisement put into the magazine, coupons if they wanted to provide that, whatever they're wanting to do to get their message out. And all of that money goes towards student scholarships. And so basically it's a magazine that we can put our own stuff into and then fill it with the vendors. As far as on-campus groups, we limit that not only for just because we end up cleaning up all the stuff that the students throw on the ground and throw in the trash, but also highlighting how much of a waste of money it is with this now virtual digital world. And that really has limited the number of even on-campus groups wanting to get things into student rooms. We are in the process of creating some magnets that have some messages on them on, how to do laundry, how to operate a dishwasher, just simple things like that we can put on the appliance. That's not going to cause damage. So we would not put stickers on there, but something that can be removed. And just trying different ways to, as far as PMs go, if we can get the students to actually use the appliances correctly, we will spend less money repairing. So, we're trying the educational approach, and we'll see. That's the first time we're going to do that in our apartment areas, but we'll see. If it works, I'll let you know, and if not, we'll try something else.
Yeah, we've done some magnet campaigns in the years past of, just slapping them on something or a door frame or every, and you'll end up finding a whole room will stockpile them all up and steal them from other places and stuff like that. But it's a mixed review. I mean, I know I still personally have some magnets that had ended up in a room that I moved into when I was in college, so like, hey, I still have that info. Is that good or bad? Who knows, right? But Drew, I did want to follow up on that vendor mag. Is that something that you put in the room then for when people move in, or do you hand it in to them when they check in?
So we have two. We have one that is directly aimed at our students, and those are put in the student rooms before they get here.
Gotcha.
And then we have a parent magazine as well, and that is handed to the parents when they arrive.
Okay.
And last year, when they arrived, we did this thing. They didn't get out of their car, basically. They drove up, and then we met them at their car. And so they actually got the magazine. The parents got the magazine in the car.
Gotcha.
So we've done it different ways. We've handed them out when they check in with their key. But we have found that they get so much stuff at them and they got their own stuff. And just if we can limit what we're giving to them, it helps everybody. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that info, Drew. How are anyone else on special requests, or is that a task that is done by your housing teams? Is it done by your facilities groups? Does it not happen a whole lot? Maybe my campus is weird and they like asking for that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey everybody, Nairi Tryman here from University of Alabama. During move-in, we don't put anything in rooms, and we don't allow anybody to put anything in rooms. We've got digital signage throughout our inventory, and so it's on a 9-second rotation. And what we encourage our friends to do is put something, a quick flyer that, again, you're gonna have 9 seconds to capture somebody's attention, and it's on a loop. So if you got some move-in or other pertinent stuff, we ask you to do that. For our really special partners, we'll allow them to do a little bit of tabling, but that is very, very, very limited. And that is limited to folks who student affairs, student life is deemed as priority issues and things that we want to make sure that they see. But yeah, we don't allow physically anybody to put anything in rooms, and as somebody alluded to, it ends up being a lot of waste. And those are budget items that you can put into other locations and be a little more effective.
Appreciate that info and that perspective. That is awesome. Awesome.
We have an exercise here of our residence hall staff called storming, and basically they accumulate anything that they want to include into the student rooms. It can be food items or tchotchkes or whatever it is, or informational flyers or whatever. And they'll essentially just storm the buildings and throw it all in there at one time before we open. And this last year, we had to include some facilities items in there. For instance, we put a tub of wipes in every apartment. All of our housing is apartments. We put one in every apartment. Well, our facility staff assisted with that on that storming exercise. We provided them and went with them. So, it's a combination of both, but it's a one-time deal, and a lot of it becomes superfluous because it's all a digital world, and what we're doing isn't digital. So,
Right.
lose.
Oh, well, I know we are getting close to end of meeting time, so I definitely want to swing to another topic here. We had vaccines listed on there as to, how your campus may be handling that or not, but I might kind of shift that one to our next month's meeting, as I know that there's a bunch of movement on what that even looks like, especially with with vaccines still being as an emergency authorization. I know some schools are kind of held up in being able to require that. But I would like us to definitely swing down to fall 21 prep, especially as we're kind of getting into the end of the semester. We're starting to put our summer maintenance together plans. But what does your fall move in look like? Are there things that you're trying to make sure happen this upcoming summer? Are there things that you didn't want to do? Or are there things that you learned from last year's COVID required isolation move-in that you're keeping with the upcoming fall move-in? So just kind of want to open that up and get some thoughts from everyone in the group as far as what does fall 21 look like, and how might she be preparing for that on as it stands the third week of April?
Well, we're preparing for here, College of the Redwoods. We've got staff that's we're bringing back to campus June 1st. So we requested from all departments to submit a reopening plan with several questions. And what's that going to look like? Are you going to do some staggered scheduling with some of your staff in the office areas and whatnot? What are you looking for physical barriers? Which, since that call for those plans came out, has changed drastically. New guidelines from the CDC. We're still looking at putting air purifiers in office areas and in the residence hall rooms. Because I deal with all of campus and the classrooms as well. And their thought is that that's going to make people feel more comfortable about returning. I was also looking at HVAC upgrades and stuff. So I'd be interested to hear what others are doing as far as physical barriers and plexiglass and plexiguard and air purifiers and just what that's going to look like to get staff back on campus and to get students back on campus.
Steve, I can tell you that at Oklahoma State, we had also purchased a fair amount of plexiglass that we had put up on certain desks and, main office and whatnot. I don't think there's any sort of plan to go get them. I think they're kind of going to live at the desk. Whether they physically stay up or not might be a whole different conversation. Even this year, I walked past some of our res hall front desks and I saw the plexiglass sitting over to the side, blocking the computer, but not necessarily blocking the attendee, from talking. I was like, that's not the point of those, but okay. I think our students will always find a way. We do still have a mask requirement on campus. So that no matter whether you've been vaccinated or not, there is you walk in a building, you got to have your mask on type deal. Now, there is flexibility that if you're in an office and you are the only one in the office, you obviously don't have to stay with your mask on. But if someone comes in, the university wants people to have their masks on. And then obviously too, there's always the medical accommodations that, there could be some folks that might not be able to wear a mask for XYZ reason. And so you just kind of have to adapt with those along the way. But we are not putting any sort of, we kind of hit on the air filters already, and air purifiers. We're not doing anything of putting devices kind of like what you referenced into every room all across. But we did like scheduled move-in times that really kind of helped disperse traffic on campus, not just like physical traffic on campus, but also, just pedestrian traffic and walking the buildings and whatnot, by scheduling out our stuff. So that is going to stick around for us. And it does mean that we will have multiple move-in days, obviously, because you got 6,000 people trying to move in all on the same day. It's not going to happen. There's not enough hours or minutes in the day for that. So, could be, I know it taxed our maintenance team to know, like, hey, we got to be here responding to I moved in and I've got this wrong that I want fixed because I just moved in. But we being able to spread it out and shorten down the days, even instead of them being an 8-hour move-in day, we are looking at more of like 4 or 5 hour move-in days to try to help balance on that front. But I'll open it back up to the floor. Anyone else? Move in, fall prep. Well, I will take the silence as a good time for us to kind of cut this meeting short. I know we have other meetings this afternoon from the ACUHO-I standpoint, but appreciate everyone taking time out of your schedule to meet with us today. It was great to hear from everyone and see the folks that were able to join. If there are other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we will make sure to get out information about our next meeting, which is May 17th, and get the registration link out to everyone. And but if there is anything that we can help with in the time between then, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Thanks for joining us today, y'all.